I personally spoke with the CEO of one of the major international stock exchanges here in Budapest. It was very positive, and there are many things in the pipeline, but no contract or agreement has been made yet, so their existence will influence the day-to-day operations, the direction we take, how we present ourselves, and which services we prioritize. Well, the point of it all is that I went to another area and got back to the office by 7:30. Of course, everyone bombarded me with everything, but I managed to gather today's information. And I would have really missed this, so I have everything with me. We managed to fix all the issues related to onboarding, so everything is corrected for everyone. Right now, they're connecting things, and testing will take place tonight and tomorrow. We expect, but it will only be revealed then, that no errors will appear here anymore. Of course, the world might intervene. Here's an interesting thing, let me quickly tell you, which we didn't expect at all. That Polkadot introduced a rule that addresses in the ecosystem must be standardized. And because of this, the code had to be rewritten in many places. By the way, this isn't a big deal, but it affected so many points that it ended up being a big task to rewrite everything. So unfortunately, we lost the feature where mosaic addresses started with the 3 letters MLS. But this doesn't actually affect anything. It's just that these things keep happening, and unfortunately, some things can be known in advance, while others, well, the Polkadot forgets to communicate. And you have to figure out what's going on, and then if we ask, it's good that there's someone to ask. They say, oh yes, we changed that. It will be updated in the documentation. The old documentation is still out there. So, we have to proceed under these circumstances, but now we don't expect any more problems. I really hope that by tomorrow afternoon, I'll hear from the guys that everything is fine. Actually, from this moment on, it could be turned on. However, Teddy and I will be out in Bucharest for a pretty big event. In terms of size, it should be classified among the largest events. So they are expecting 3,000 guests. The event has a lot of participants, exhibitors, and speakers who are exciting for us. So we're heading out with great enthusiasm, and we are prepared to manage, seat them, and present things there. We will also be on stage. Of course, we had to carefully consider what to do on stage given who will be there. The situation is, if there's an audience of 3,000 people, I believe the stage is set up in 2 locations, and for sure, several hundred are watching at the same time. We have to start from the assumption that those who are there don't know much about us yet. If in those 15 minutes while we're on stage, we try to say everything we have, we won't be able to say enough about anything for them to understand. And that's not advantageous. So, we need to prioritize something. By the way, we've already decided on that because we see the setup, and we've also figured out that, for example, there will be a lot of traders. This event looks like those who are presenting or exhibiting have a kind of internal social media where they can message each other, arrange to sit down, meet, and talk. This, now, fortunately, someone within the company who is very good at this has taken charge, and they have already scheduled everyone everywhere in advance. Communications are still ongoing, so we will prioritize blockchain and target the projects that, well, the ones we want to start on the chain. For this too, we have several concepts on how to make it appealing for them to perhaps abandon the plans they've woven so far and decide to start on the Mosaic chain instead. For this, a stage performance like this is very little to make a decision based on, but it can help. And this is what the presentation will support that those we talked to outside. Well, let's not call it a negotiation. I don't know. It's actually agreed that at a certain time, we'll sit down in a quieter, more secluded meeting area, and then there. Water. This is meant to prepare for that, and well, it's serious work. So an event like this at this stage requires very serious work. Without stopping, and these are serious strategic decisions, it's like a sports match where you have to make quick decisions. There you have the opportunity to decide who to talk to, and you have to choose one because there won't be time for the others due to the circumstances, and then you have to quickly decide why this one, that one, or the other. We gather information. The organizers are fortunately partners in everything, so we've managed to establish a relationship that now really supports our requests, wishes, and size very well. It's certain that an average sponsor like us is not in as good a position as we've managed to build with them over the past 2 or 3 weeks. We plan to use the same approach at other events. Regarding the other events, because the situation is similar to what I mentioned earlier, where there are projects and decisions need to be made. For example, right now there are 3 events, but realistically we can only attend one professionally because some completely overlap and others almost coincide, so it's practically impossible to organize attending 2 out of these 3. The coolest event is the one in Moscow. It has a strong message, what they're doing in Moscow right now. Truly, the cream of the crop from the entire world and the blockchain community will be there. Such a cool event. I don't even know if there's ever been one like it. You know, there are these events called 2048, which the press talks about a lot, but I don't think there's ever been anything like what the one in Moscow will be. Until the day before yesterday, we were completely sure that we had to go there because it's the coolest event, but in the past 2 days, things have happened that might be much more important to us for other reasons because already it has taken some form and a connection has been established with very important players from a collaboration perspective. And besides Moscow, both of the other events would greatly support the realization of something very important for us. So, at this moment, with the current information at hand, I see that it is worth skipping the Moscow event for either of the other 2 events. We will inform you about these in due time, and once we have certainty, we need to decide. Relatively quickly anyway, but these are very, very exciting connections, and there are potential collaborations in sight, which, on one hand, are very good. They bring in users, and it looks really good to have such collaborations. And although none of them have reached the point where we can say they will definitely happen, it seems that there are more projects where these are becoming more concrete, so I can't imagine that none of the ones currently in view will come to fruition. That's statistically unlikely, so I think that within a relatively short time, say within a month at most, 2 months, there will be very, very exciting developments here we see that those projects, obviously, within the industry where they understand the technology, if they get to the point of learning about the Mosaic project, they are very open. So this gives plenty of reason to be optimistic and confidently approach new partners because we see that the closer we get to each other, the more positive the feedback becomes. Obviously, everyone is waiting for the mainnet to launch because at this stage, everyone is willing to talk to us as it's already a real project. Since by the time the implementation begins, the chain will have already started. So this will be another big boost when it's fully operational.
By the way, what came to my mind, sorry for interrupting, Katie, is that in the past few years, now that you mentioned these stories, it just occurred to me, in the past few years, you started your story by saying that you were able to negotiate with the CEO of a pretty significant stock exchange, and through what steps we or you were able to reach that point with this project so that it's now taken seriously. You, us, the Mosaic Galaxy, the Mosaic project is taken seriously by a stock exchange, and it's possible to negotiate and discuss potential collaborations and listing opportunities with them. And obviously, when this whole thing started, it was in a completely different quality and position, possibly reaching out to various forums, exploring different collaboration opportunities. And you can really see this development beautifully in this network building that the Mosaic has gone through. So I think there will be reasons to be excited in the upcoming period. I'll be honest with you, when you mentioned this with Peter Molnar to us at this Moscow thing, I was very excited, and now I'm a bit surprised because of what you said about the big shots and who will be there in Moscow. And also, I mean, when we looked at it together, it was going to be a 15,000 person event or something.
It says more than 15,000 plus.
Yes, and it's full of big shots, whether in terms of companies or professional individuals. Really, as if it's some kind of professional Oscar gala, or I don't even know how to compare it to anything else like that. So, well, it's exciting. And if you say that there's even more on the table besides this, then I'm really excited. But sorry for interrupting. I just wanted to say that it's really great to see this development, even in the seriousness of the relationships. Who are the ones with whom we are dealing with increasingly serious and serious organizations, increasingly serious and serious people you can sit down with, and they take us, you, seriously. So I think this is a huge thing.
Yes, Dan, it really is. And it's so good that with this stock exchange, the conversation looked like, well, actually, you need to know. And the thing is, until you practice this at such a level, it's completely different. To just know, of course, that it's about connections, but how to use them so that nothing gets damaged anywhere. And yet, things work well. So, we had help with this now, and these are very, very important things, like how to sit down with a stock exchange talk so that we sit down with the CEO and it's prepared in such a way that it makes sense and they sit down with us. And obviously, you have to get a few people involved. You don't need to ask for big favors anywhere because it needs to be presented well. This was preceded by a few conversations with others. The technology teams were brought together so the stock exchanges IT specialists, had a few message exchanges, and one online conversation. And it's completely different when the CEO of a stock exchange sits down prepared about you. Their team has explained what they see in the project. And they see in the project that the mosaic is good for many things that might be interesting for them. I don't want to discuss the direction we've envisioned for such a collaboration, but it's about significantly more than just listing the tokens. Obviously, that's included. It's not a big deal. Because for now, we've only talked about it, so that's where it stands. But this is how they need to be operated. By the way, this type of work is very enjoyable. It's very efficient, and we expect a lot of results from these. Obviously, it's like in business deals, where I don't know how many negotiations out of how many. This is exactly the same. But now they are scheduled so far in advance, with so many participants, that it really blows my mind. So like this.
Sorry to interrupt again, but thoughts are coming to me as well. This is not a pre-choreographed conversation, but a completely spontaneous one between you and me, and I actually wanted to say something about this, so that the audience is a bit more aware, although I do know that. Most of them here are aware of what I'm going to say, but let me highlight this and tip my hat to you, Peter Molnar, and your entire team, and let me thank you for the incredible amount of work you put in, because I wanted to say exactly what you mentioned, that, a person keeps putting in the work and the number of negotiations, and it's like a 52-card French deck. We know there are 4 aces in it, but you don't know, because all the cards are face down. You don't know if the ace you're drawing is next. You just know that if you draw enough over time, that serving ace has to appear, which right now means a negotiation, a negotiator, or even a really great opportunity. I just want to say that often it doesn't show from the outside, because now everyone is on edge. Everyone is eagerly waiting for us to finally get started with the onboarding, for the main net to be up and running smoothly, but we tend to forget how many work hours so many people have put into this. And that, for example, with such people, exchanges. Being able to connect with projects is also thanks to the fact that a dedicated team of experts has started to form for you, who are researching these opportunities, these connections, who are serious people taken seriously by serious companies. These people are now working to make the galaxy as recognized and well-known as possible in these circles. So we also thank them very much for their work. And just so you can see, so this is not a deception. So Attila, I checked the time when you called me just before the Zoom webinar. It was 7:40 p.m. 7:40 p.m. And all day long, there was coordination going on, rushing from A to B, from B to C, from C to D. Phew, here you have to coordinate on some issue, here you have to deal with the press, and there's some stock market thing. There will be a meeting right now. Maybe you just came from the president CEO.
No, there was another meeting in between, yes.
Yes, because you just said, like, phew, okay guys, this 8 o'clock is going to be really tight, but obviously we promised we have to be there and we will check in. Obviously, by then we already knew that Petty had gotten sick in the meantime. But I just want to let the audience know that there isn't a stone left unturned here. There's no downtime. So really, since we've been working together, Attila, I haven't seen you or Petty without those headphones constantly. For example, there was a time when we were going down, I think it was at the very beginning, when you held a professional training for us at the Spirit Hotel. Such a professional training for us, the member. At that time, I took Petty Molmar down. He came with me. I was driving, and Petty was sitting next to me in the passenger seat, constantly coding, constantly writing, doing it, and coordinating in his head at the same time. So I would really like sometimes for people to get a condensed few-minute video, maybe just from one of your weeks, to see how intense it is, how much. Just a little essential, really a half-minute, 1-minute compilation. There's a tremendous amount of work in this, so I share your opinion, and I am of the same stance as you that statistically speaking, with the amount of work put into this, the number of people, the number of work hours put into this, I think this project is destined for success. Obviously, we still need to take these necessary steps together, and they still need to come to fruition. But yes, this is how legends and legendary stories are born. So I just wanted to share this with everyone. That truly hear that. Minutes. Every minute is utilized in every aspect.
Yes, and I'll reveal a secret that I was still eating my breakfast when I was already in, but I left the camera off. So now I've eaten too. Yes, really. But while you were talking, I remembered how I got sidetracked to this point, about what to expect with the onboarding. So let's say by tomorrow afternoon or evening. Thank you very much. We can say that if nothing comes up, then we know it can be launched at any moment now. We need to make that decision, and forgive me, but we won't be doing it in the next 10 to 20 minutes. About when to launch it. I wouldn't be too happy if at the launch. We were still out in Bucharest, but it's not certain that this won't happen because we haven't decided yet. So it's likely that it will be smarter to do it once we return. We're coming back on Wednesday. So, the description on how to use it is ready. They'll did a fantastic job. It's now available in English, and it's a simple task to translate it into Hungarian, so there will obviously be a Hungarian version as well. I'll tell you, I don't know the status of the video. I'm not aware of it. And if it were completed, I would know. There will definitely be a video, but the onboarding needs to be started. It's written down even without the video, so it doesn't add that much extra, and there will still be a video. Show that. Yes, by tomorrow evening, we will definitely be able to say, because then it will be clear whether everything is connected, cooperating, everything is good. Everything is tested, so by tomorrow evening we will know this, and by then it will also be decided when the launch will be. And regarding this, when the launch happens, you have to count the days. I'm sure you remember that after the launch. The countdown starts right from the 30th day or the 31st day. I don't even remember how we stated the rule, but we will reinforce that. And the first 100 block producers will get an extra. 500 will receive it now. Again, I think it's a really great deal to be part of this, so it's worth working for it. We will look at it in such a way that we will consider the interval of the first 10 days, so from the 30th to the 40th day. Because if someone validates continuously there, except for a shorter period, they will receive it. So, that's what I wanted to say.
Obviously, these 500 mosaic pieces will be on the LangChain.
Yes, and we will do this manually, so it's not an automatic process, so you can be sure that whoever deserves it will receive it. I'm not sure, and maybe it doesn't even make sense to prioritize this too much because we hope that the person won't want to sell it immediately, but they will receive it in a short time. I'm thinking about what else we talked about that we should definitely discuss. Glad you're here.
Ilse, I'll help you. Let me check now.
Okay, glad.
We talked about onboarding, the joining process. Yes, next Wednesday. They came back from Bucharest to tell. Yes, no. Okay. You just talked about it. Yes. Basically about this. 500 Mosaic reward. Yes. There's a trader competition mentioned here. Yes, so can you share any information about the trader competition?
Yes, everything is set for the trader competition. So that. Probably not this week, but it looks like it will start next week. So everything is set there too. Everything is operational. Well, here you see it was delayed a lot because, from a marketing perspective, it was prepared. But unfortunately, due to technical reasons, these two things got out of sync with each other. So there are directions where it must be launched. So it will start, and communication about it will also begin. But this, it will be strange, because it will actually be running, but the official announcement of the competition's launch will be on March 13th. We coordinated this with the guys in a very tight 3-minute time frame between two rushes. Here, of course, the PR and journalists are involved, and this announcement on the 13th will really just reinforce it. And then you will see this, so it will really start within days. By the way, this also happened today. It's so funny that both the onboarding and this came together today, and now everything is working well.
It was also written here, thank you very much. It was also written here that right now there's quite a bit of tension in the crypto community, in the crypto world, with what's happening on the exchanges. You know, the Bybit robbery, the hacking, about $1.5 billion worth of Ethereum disappeared from there. From this point on, starting from this point, Bitcoin and along with it, the entire alt. Thank you very much. Coins have also started to seriously plummet. If you could perhaps give a little professional insight now, why do you think this is happening, or what's going on in the crypto world? In terms of a mosaic perspective, if there's such a parallel, what would you say? So, if you could say a few more words about this, I think that would be good.
Well, you see, we are talking about the past few days here and in the past few days. And please understand, I'm not saying this to complain, but it's completely true. And I think it's actually cool that this is happening. There were days when I really needed to go to the restroom, and from that point, I didn't get there for the next 3 hours, but this was within my office, within my company. So, I'm really keeping up with the events. But I get the news. By turning on the news at bedtime, it plays on my phone next to my head, and 33 seconds later I'm already asleep, but some of it still gets into my head. So, obviously, what happened at Bybit, I read all four. Like, investigative company, I don't even know if you can call them investigators. Really, these are like blockchain. Transaction analysis companies, these are serious studies, so the 4 studies together were at least 50 to 60 pages. Because I'm interested, I was curious about where it stands, how they track it, what they do, and of course, what happened. I'm not going to tell the whole story now because it's all over YouTube. A very big lesson is that you need to verify the transaction on the hardware device. Now, those who know what happened know what I'm talking about. In short, the CEO of Bybit, from the cold wallet, which the exchange's IT system cannot move, where the big money is kept, but it must be able to be transferred to the exchange at any time, where the exchange manages it to operate without any hitches. He wanted to initiate a transaction transferring money from the cold wallet to the exchange, and he was looking at the data on his computer and monitor, and some data appeared there, but his computer had been hacked, so it wasn't the transaction that was going through. On the ledger, he just approved the transactions without verifying the data. And on his computer, when the signed transaction came back, it again showed the data presented by the hacker. So that's how they managed to rob the exchange. Well, at this point, I was also taken aback because, well, you might need to look a little, and it's so easy to just press the buttons. And it made me think, I teach this, I always talk about this, and, well, when it comes to big money, I always double check on the ledger to make sure it's correct. When I'm transferring hundreds of dollars from the ledger, for some reason, I also just press through it like bum 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 bum. Well, yes, but it's not certain that the hacked transaction I submitted to the ledger is a $100 transaction. It always needs to be checked. But now, about the phenomenon and what's going on and what's behind the crash of the exchange rates. This coincided in time. Without having much time to delve into it, a Bybit heist, especially with such communication and crisis management, where Bybit handles it, and the CEO stands up transparently and admits that this mistake was made. After one day, it was clear that this wouldn't bring Bybit to its knees. No one will lose their money because of this. So, yes, $1.5 billion is a lot of money for everyone, but it's small compared to causing trouble for Bybit. So, obviously, the news itself can create some movement, but it can't create movement that lasts for days. However, that can. It now seems increasingly likely, or one could increasingly say it's certain that Donald Trump will impose this 25% punitive tariff on Mexico and Canada as well. The consequence of which is that a lot of goods that are not produced domestically in the USA, and there are many such goods imported, will become more expensive in America. This has an inflationary effect, making life more expensive there. At least, these are the signs currently showing. And based on this, obviously, this can be exploited and played upon. Yes, now the euro is also affected, but still. I don't want to get into the political aspect, but we see that Trump is going hard, and he wants decisions immediately and everyone to do things the way he wants right away. It's not certain that he will think the same way 2 months from now, and it's also possible that everyone will do what he wants, and then there won't be any penalties after all. I won't go into it now, but the point is that such news can much more likely cause that negative spiral because that's how Wall Street operates. Wall Street traditionally operates this way. And there are numerous analyses showing that when prices rise, it affects the investment market. What differences it brings, and if they calculate from this 25% punitive tariff, what the consumer baskets will contain in relation to people's salaries, and what changes, then they can calculate how it will affect the securities market or the investment market, which now also includes the crypto market. I don't know how many hundreds of billions of dollars less will go in during the next period, and then quite simply Wall Street will adjust the dials, rebalance the portfolios, liquidate assets, which can have such an effect. Now, this is where the speculators come in, who know these situations exactly. They know exactly how things will unfold, and they capitalize on these processes. And by the way, for a professional speculator, even in a bull market, when things are going up, the best thing is if they can be manipulated in the meantime. So, these things happen. I don't think a bear market has arrived now. As for how significant this will be and how long it will last, I think it will become clear in the coming days and weeks because there will be both positive and negative news. What will definitely be amplified is whatever serves the interests of those who serves their speculation. And I don't think that, in the current decline, Bybit definitely has a role, but I don't think it has a dominant role in it. I believe that the punitive tariffs have a greater impact on this.